All right, so on sort of the heels of the upheaval of the last 2.5 years, we thought that it's time for us as fundraisers to take a deeper look at our special events and how we're using them, if we're doing it well or not, which for the most part, we could use a little bit of help. To that end, I'm really excited to introduce today's speakers from Phoenix Pride, who have really incredible experience planning and executing events that have been both financially successful and socially significant. Ava Steele is a graduate of the Leadership Academy at the ASU Lodestar Center, which quick shout outs to Colleen, who's graduating from that program today. And Ava's created the Phoenix Pride Diversity and Inclusion Training and is their program manager. And Landon Smith also has a long history with Phoenix Pride as a volunteer and a board member, and now is their development manager. He's a co-director for the Phoenix Pride pageantry system. So Ava and Landon, thank you very much for joining us today. Welcome and take it away.
Hi, everyone. Hello, hello. Thank you so much for allowing us to spend some time with you guys today. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Can we use our screen?
Yes, we'll share the screen.
We're going to share our screen. So we have a little presentation for you guys today. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Pride movement, why it's important, a little bit about Phoenix Pride and who we are, and then Landon's going to go ahead and take away and talk about our effective fundraising. So again, like they said, my name is Eva. This is Landon. So thank you so much for having us today, and we're just going to go ahead and get started. Maybe. So June is National Pride Month here in the United States. It's celebrated in June for the reason of Stonewall riots that happened back in the late 60s on a late evening in June, when the community at a small local inn bar decided that they were going to stand up for the community and fight back to some brutality and things that were happening with the police and local businesses. So that's kind of always been historically the reasoning why the United States celebrates it in the month of June. Obviously, it's really hot here in Phoenix, so we celebrate our Pride Festival in October, and we have a smaller festival that we just wrapped up in April, but that's a little bit about Pride. So, So like I was saying, in the early hours of June 28, 1969, New York City police raided the Stonewall Inn. And like I said, individuals within the neighborhood and of course within the bar decided that they were going to no longer accept or tolerate the brutality and the injustices that were happening. And they decided that they were going to stand up. This really catapulted the movement and started the movement and became a huge ripple across the entire country. And it's now known as, of course, the LGBTQ+ movement. These are just some photos that were taken from the actual incidents that were happening, the riots. They went on for a few days and it got pretty violent. People were arrested, things were thrown, things were broken, obviously, but they're very important to continue to celebrate and recognize. So this is a little bit about why gay bars are important. Sorry, I forgot some of this was in here. So for several decades, like I said, these became our safe spaces. Much like Pride festivals and organizations across the country, gay bars were the only place that really we could go into and be ourselves and not be judged or have to hide in the main mass public. They have, like I said, they become our safe spaces for many, many, many years. Now they serve much more than that, but they're contributors to our community and to the society. Businesses and entrepreneurs, and they just really help for, specifically here in Phoenix, for us to be able to have a sense of community and also be able to provide within our communities.
I think one of the biggest things when we look at bars as a place of refuge, and when you're thinking about fundraising, one of our biggest events that we have that we use to fundraise is our Pride pageant system. Our contestants are usually representing different bars or community organizations, and it kind of instills that sense of pride of something that they can go back and look at. And when you're thinking about fundraising in general, and you're kind of looking at those like niche markets, we all have a cause that's important to us. And so really understanding where is that foundation of where people feel safe to gather, where they feel a sense of community. For the LGBTQ community, it is bars, because a lot of times we didn't have any place else to gather. So it was hidden behind closed doors, and a wink, a knock, a special code word that you had to know in order to get in. And so when you're thinking about finding ways to really attack and fundraise and be able to find those individuals who really are invested in what you're raising money for, it's really thinking about where they're gathering, what's important to them, what places might you be able to find them. Because if you're an organization working with children, bars may not be the place. If you're an organization working with adults who have special needs, there may be a specific place or a foundation of where you know that they feel a sense of community.
So here are some of our important historic events within the community that I think are important to highlight. Obviously, we just talked about the Stonewall riots, which occurred on June 28, 1969. Next, we have on October 14, 1979, was the National March on Washington for Lesbian and Gay Rights. The community and their allies have marched on the nation's capital on numerous occasions, and this was kind of known as the first national march. Of course, in the 80s, we have the HIV and AIDS epidemic. This disease was first noticed by doctors who were treating gay men in Southern California, San Francisco, and of course, in New York City. This is extremely important to highlight that it has not gone anywhere, and many states still are existing in an epidemic state. Phoenix kind of happens, Arizona kind of happens to be one of those. There's still lots of things that we need to do as a nation and as a globe to really fight and end HIV and AIDS. We have all the necessary tools, and the education is out there for individuals to live healthy, thriving lives. And we really need to remember the past and remember that it's still here and continue to fight to end it. In 1980s, we had Don't Ask, Don't Tell, which obviously prevented individuals that were serving within the United States military branches to disclose their statuses or their identities or sexual orientations. In 2015, we had the passing of marriage equality. I think that this is extremely important to highlight that our community is a little uncertain on the future of marriage equality. There are lots of politicians out there that are trying to create legislature that could possibly be targeted to marriage equality at some point. I think it's important to highlight that marriage equality was not passed just for same-sex marriages, but was truly for marriage equality. All individuals across the globe, across the country, should have the right to be able to marry and love who they want to, whether it be male, whether it be female, 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 or male, male, trans to trans. It doesn't necessarily matter. Marriage equality is for all of us, and it's extremely important that we come together and we continue to uphold that moving into the future. Of course, we have our US Supreme Court rulings, protection for LGBTQ+ employees. That was in June 2020. Something that's kind of significant to Arizona is we have a nonprofit organization, One Community, that works extremely hard with local businesses and politicians and city councils to really get inclusivity passed in different cities across the state, so that individuals that are living within those towns and working at companies that are located in those cities have the same protections as anybody else. Here are some key people that are famous and infamously known within our community. Of course, on the left, we have Marsha P. Johnson. For any of those who may not know who Marsha P. Johnson was, they were an individual, self-identified drag queen performer and survivor. They were, history tells us that they were the first or one of the first individuals to throw the brick and really start the Stonewall riots. I think it's important for myself and for Marsha's history. A lot of history writes her as a trans woman. And I think that if you read things or listened to Marsha's interviews, you would probably understand that they were more gender queer, gender fluid, maybe even non-binary. And I think that's really important for Marsha's history and Marsha's story, that we don't rewrite it for her or for them, and that it was written for themselves. So they are known as the mother of pride. They are known the mother of the community and the initiator of the Stonewall riots. In the middle, we have Harvey Milk, which hopefully is no stranger to anybody. They were probably the first, known as the first American politician that was openly gay and elected into office in California. That candidacy sent ripples across the country, and Harvey got a lot of recognition and of course a lot of back and negative things that happened or that were happening towards him in the community. Unfortunately, his life was taken, and we celebrate Harvey not only just in the month of June, but of course across the country all year long. He really helped individuals that are LGBTQ+ and want to get into American politics feel as if they had a place to do so. Edith Wisner is on the end. A lot of people may not know who she was. She ignited the battle that would change LGBTQ+ rights forever. Because of her determination and lawsuit, the Supreme Court ruled that DOMA was unconstitutional, which eventually paved the way for the legalization of same-sex marriage, or of course, what we know as marriage equality. So why is Pride important? Much more than just a festival, it's a safe space for everyone to be authentically who they are and to be proud of who they are. Many times these events are used to raise awareness and negate the labels that maybe society has placed upon us. And really to normalize that we do have LGBTQ+ families, to allow families to be with other families within the LGBTQ+ community and to find a sense of community, to find strength. It's an avenue for us to break the stereotypes that society has placed and to recognize our history, the progress, our past, and where we plan to go as a community. This is a huge thing, and I think that a lot of times people don't necessarily think about this at a Pride Festival until we see the photos and we have the conversations with the little kids and the families all over, instill confidence in the LGBTQ youth. They are able to find services, they are able to find individuals like them. Many times this is the first time in their life that they have seen someone that was like them. And it may be the only time that they see anyone the entire year, or to be able to connect with someone the entire year that may have experienced or can understand them better. Education and inclusivity. It's an opportunity for our organizations, our communities, and our companies and corporations to come together to educate each other, to really promote and support inclusivity across the board, whether it be policies and procedures within corporations, laws and legislation, or of course, just programming and services that are vital to the LGBTQ community. Again, to bring attention to the LGBTQ businesses. And of course, it's a fun and celebration as a community for us to be proud of who we are and to not be judged or shamed for doing so. It's an opportunity to bring attention to what we as an organization can do and does all year long within our community. So a little bit about us, who we are. We are a mighty, but as you can see, a very small team. We have only 4 employees. We have roughly 13 board members and hundreds of volunteers that truly make not only just the festival happen, but really everything that we do 365 days of the year. Up in the left, we have our executive director, Mike Vernelli. To the right is, of course, Landon Smith, our development manager. I am Eva Steele, director of programs, and Stella Kowalczyk is our director of community engagement. We were founded in 1981.
Yeah, sure. So as an organization, we were founded back in 1981. We started off as just a simple march and have grown to the organization over 40 years later. With COVID and throwing things off, we were finally able in November to celebrate our 40th anniversary as an organization. We continue to grow and find new and different ways to engage the community. I've had the opportunity to both work with and talk with a lot of individuals who were there back in the 80s or who joined the organization soon thereafter, the early 90s. And to see the growth that the organization has had from a 100% volunteer-led organization into the organization that we are today, where we have the 4 staff members, we have a great board of directors and hundreds of volunteers that every year come to make sure that we're able not only to have our events that we do, but also the community foundation that we produce. As an organization, we produce the 2 largest LGBTQ cultural events that happen in the state of Arizona. So our Pride Festival, which we are looking forward to in the fall this year, and Rainbows Festival, which we have in the spring. Kind of some looking back, going through some of that initial March. Fun fact, Arizona and here in Phoenix, we actually did used to have our festival in June. We haven't had it in June since 2003, but it is something that we used to celebrate with the rest of the country.
Also, fun fact, real quick. So a lot of people don't know that the trans flag was actually created here in Phoenix and was displayed to the entire country for the very first time in the 2000 Pride Parade. So that's really exciting. We had the individual that made it, Monica Helms. She was our Grand Marshal a few years ago. I got to meet her. It was very exciting as a trans woman. It was very exciting and an honorable moment to meet her. So that's kind of history specifically to Phoenix, Arizona, and we've made a huge mark into the LGBTQ movement.
So here's some of the events that we produce throughout the year. Of course, I just mentioned our festival and Rainbows Festival. We have our parade this year, which will be October 16th, the Sunday leading into the festival. Our awards reception is actually coming up this Sunday at Tempe Center for the Arts. It's not only for an opportunity for us to recognize community leaders, businesses, and organizations, but these are individuals that are recognized by the community. These are nominated and voted on by the community. In addition to our awards reception, we also, this is our opportunity to highlight the community foundation. So this year we'll be super proud and super excited on Sunday. We will be handing out over $200,000 in community grants that are project-based grants. We have the Phoenix Pride Scholarship Program, which is one of the largest LGBTQ plus aligned scholarships here in the state of Arizona, and our partnership grant program, which we work with different nonprofits who volunteer at our events. We incentivize their service and their volunteer hours and make a donation back to the nonprofits that they represent. In addition to that, we have our Phoenix Pride Pageant, which now holds 3 divisions, Mr., Miss, and Mix, which is a title that the Mix is our newest division, which we will be having our first pageant for that on Sunday. And it's open to individuals who do not identify on the gender binary or choose not to want to have a title that identifies them as a specific gender. And then we also have our Junior Pride Pageant, which is open to individuals 14 to 20, and allowing our future leaders to have the skills and opportunities to really kind of work with us that are a little bit older to really kind of hone their leadership skills and get them prepared for being future leaders in our community. Festival, make sure if you haven't had an opportunity to check us out, check out our website for October 15th and 16th for our festival. And the Community Foundation, which I mentioned, is kind of my baby and Eva's babies, where we really have our opportunity to give back and really spend a lot of time with fundraising and creating special events, creating a connection. With the Community Foundation, compared to most service providing nonprofits, what we provide is a feeling. If you talk to anyone within the LGBT community, you know they can remember their first Pride, what that felt like to finally be in a place where they felt included, to finally be in a place where they felt welcomed, to finally be in a place where they saw individuals maybe for the first time that were experiencing life the same way that they were. So when it comes to fundraising and creating events that raise money for our scholarship program, that raise money for our community grants program and our partnership programs, it's really thinking about in our organization, who are the individuals who are best suited to do different jobs. So there's really 3 ways. I have, coming from the board, there were 3 different types of individuals that we tried to look at. We were looking at individuals who are ambassadors for the organization, individuals who are advocates for the organization, and individuals who are actually going to get out there and do the ask. Those ambassadors are traditionally your board members. They're going to be volunteers that work within your organization because they really know what goes on day in and day out. And they're able to do that quick elevator speech because they are passionate about the organization. The advocates are going to be those individuals who potentially are volunteers that have received services. They are bought in because of that feeling that we provide, and also our staff, us that are here working day in and day out, can really advocate for what happens. We are the ones on the front lines that receive the phone calls when folks are in crisis, when folks have moved into town for the first time and they're just trying to find a sense of community. We also have the individuals who are the askers. That's traditionally my role here within the organization. Most organizations, you have someone in development, or it may be just the volunteers, if you're a volunteer-led organization, who get out there and really make the case for, this is what you're doing, this is what you're impacting. Every day when I have sponsor calls, it's really talking about, I remember even I had the opportunity and the privilege of serving at Mr. and Miss Phoenix Pride 5 years ago, back in 2017. And one personal story for me is there was a family that I met at Rainbows Festival. Actually, I met them for the first time at Pride. And then I met them again at Rainbows Festival, and I pretty much met them every year at one of our events since then. But as a Black man living in Phoenix, there's not a lot of representation that I see. And so it was truly important for me to be the representation that I wanted to see. And it was a mom with her son who just came out, and he was a younger Black kid. That's like, you could be that person. That could be you one day standing on that stage with a microphone in your hand, talking about why you're passionate. And those connections, those stories are what you as fundraisers should be looking for, documenting. If there's anyone who's received a benefit from your services, we interview our scholarship recipients, we interview our community grants recipients, our partnership grant recipients. They're on the ground, they're at our events. They're the ones who are telling our story over and over. Like you said, when we pointed out in the slideshow, there's only 4 of us that are here on staff. We have 12 board members, but outside of that, the hundreds of volunteers who are on the ground with us, who are working face to face. Each one of those individuals is the cheerleader who has an opportunity to really share the mission that we have. Beyond the community foundation, we look for partnerships with organizations who not only want to sponsor our events, but want to make that relationship something that is holistic and works 365 days. More and more, you're hearing more about the rainbow dollar and rainbow painting, and not really wanting to think about corporations who only turn on the rainbow when it's the month of June, but really working with those organizations and businesses who day in and day out I'm talking to, who want to create events that happen throughout the year and not just during when we have Pride or when we have rainbows or during Pride Month. So really seeking out those partnerships and businesses that want that holistic kind of, we want to build something together that's long-term. Those are the things that allow us to really fundraise and raise money at an exponential rate. One of our sponsors that I'm thinking of right now is Four Peaks. They work with several different organizations throughout the year. During the month of April for us, it's a community handle. So Genuine Concepts, Four Peaks, the partnership, and each one of them kind of donates something that brings back to the table at all the Genuine Concept locations. And at the end of the month, we get a payout based on that. And those are different fun events that impact the community that may not be what someone thinks about when they think about Pride. So those relationships and partnerships are incredibly important when we think about how we are fundraising, because that extra salesperson who's bought in, they become, again, those cheerleaders for you throughout the year. So as an organization with our community foundation in 2020, in the midst of a pandemic, we hit a huge milestone $1 million that we've given back to the community since 2008 when the community foundation began. So that's due in part to not only sponsors who come on and sponsor the community foundation, but the hard work of volunteers who have run for things like the titles of Mr. and Miss Phoenix Pride, individuals who have volunteered at our events. All of those tie back into how we were able to hit that $1 million that we've given back to the community. So we provide different opportunities for education, especially during this month. That's something that we offer all the time with our sponsorships are going to be our diversity and inclusion training based on what level sponsors come at. And then we also, during the month of Pride, Pride Month, and as the need comes up, we have Pride chats with different businesses, organizations that are community facing, so that individuals who work with our community, because the LGBTQ community, it is a microcosm within a macrocosm. You're going to encounter individuals of every race, of every gender, every socioeconomic status, every education level. If you deal with the public, you're going to be dealing with someone who is a part of the LGBTQ+ community. And that's our presentation.
Yeah.
There we go. Perfect.
Is there any questions or anything?
Do you want me to take it, you off of spotlight and we'll have everybody so we can see all see each other?
That'd be great, Ori.
Hang on 1 sec.
Well, thank you, Eva, and thank you, Landon. That was really wonderful. I hope I can just start off with some questions, just sort of about the events and about your fundraising and how you've built towards this community foundation over the last 10 or 15 years that you're able to give out $1 million to the community, which is just incredible. And how do these events that you hold play into that fundraising?
So with the events that we have, so it depends on the type of event. So our larger events, a portion of the ticket sales, portion of the liquor sales that comes from Pride, for instance, Rainbows Festival, those tie back into not only the operating budget, but also we budget out how towards our scholarship programs, towards our community foundation, community grants program and partnership grants program. The smaller events typically are very specific and tied to, for instance, with our Pride pageant. This year, we'll probably wind up with 13 different prelims. That's 26 different individuals potentially who are running for the title of either Mr. or Miss Phoenix Pride. Each one of them is required to put on at least one fundraiser, and all the money that they raise goes back to the scholarship fund. So it's incentivizing it, because with that pageant, one of the categories that they're judged on is fundraising. And in order to get full amount of points for that fundraising category, they have to fundraise at least $2,000. It's something that's kind of ebbed and flowed over the years, because the pageant next year will be the 30th year that we've had Mr. and Miss Phoenix Pride. But since I want to say 2017 was the first time that the class that ran that year raised what we had projected to give back as far as scholarships. And every year since then, it's not been, you need to raise at least, try and raise as much money as you can. It's like, no, in order to get to the point where you can even qualify, it's kind of that mindset of you have to raise at least $2,000. So it's 26 different individuals who have different ideas of inventive ways to raise money, because most of them represent bars. So it's really easy to think about a drag show, but at the same time, we've seen some really great, there was one fundraiser that was horseback riding, where they found a community organization that supported the LGBTQ community that was willing to donate a portion of the proceeds. So it was like a pride night out in the, where they rode horsebacks out in the desert somewhere. I've seen events where they have done a Facebook Live. They got a musician that just took donations based on song choices. And this was while we were in the midst of COVID. That fundraiser raised over $5,000 just sitting on Zoom and Facebook Live for 3 hours while a musician played songs that people requested. So it's really kind of everyone, if they have the opportunity to really think about like why the organization is important to them. No bad idea is a bad idea. And some ideas may not be executed well the first time, but kind of holding true. Our artist call is one thing that comes to mind. Our artist call, the first year we tried it, goodness gracious, I think we got five people submitted things. And out of those 5, I want to say maybe one of them was kind of something that we could use for something that put out there. But this last year, we went from that small of a contested pool to this last artist call. We had over 40 pieces that were entered. We had a full gallery show. I talked to some of the artists where for the first time, there was an artist for the first time they were ever able to sell a piece of their artwork. So it's not only engaging and kind of keep them moving, but that engagement piece is don't give up just because it doesn't work that first time.
So I'm really interested hearing all of that and thinking about, you know, the different types of events that you have and how the organization has grown. And I don't know if this is maybe a question about, you know, sort of communications or marketing or what it might be, but like a lot of times, especially when I think of your larger events, I don't think of them first as fundraising events.
Right.
You know, I think of them first as community events and as programs, but they're obviously fundraisers as well. And so I was wondering, you know, how do you speak about it internally and how do you speak about it externally? Because I think that's something as an example, I know at least for my organization, like that's an example to move towards.
The biggest thing is well, for me, thinking about it's how it's built into the budget. And looking at how it's built into the budget, because we need to be able to pay for the event and make sure that it happens. But then once you know what that bare minimum is, then kind of thinking about what sponsors can we bring on so that offsets the cost, even though we budgeted for it. And then you start to go into, are we selling tickets for this event or is it a free event? Who are we bringing in as far as the entertainment, or what's the draw that brings individuals in? A lot of our sponsors, even if they can't be a sponsor of a particular event, maybe they can donate something that we can use as an auction item or some kind of excitement piece that brings folks into the event itself.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I love hearing about this because I do think that, you know, in a long time ago, events were basically just like, we have a big event, people have dinner, we honor, we have a speaker, we raise money. And I think that that's sort of a little bit in some ways outdated. And so I love the idea of thinking about how can organizations sort of emulate what you do, which is making an event that isn't, it doesn't mean it can't raise money, but that's not
Right.
primarily what it's about, is that it's about how do we help people come together who have this sort of same connection in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that could be true for any organization, right? Like any organization could create an event where it's bringing the community together around something and then figuring out how to make it about the people rather than about fundraising, even though fundraising is a piece of it. And I think Pride has done that so well. So, I mean,
and as an organization, we really have to. I think about some of the different queer organizations that are out there. 1 in 10, you cannot not get money when you're talking about kids. Aunt Rita's, it's super easy to look at HIV and AIDS as a community, as a cause that people want to contribute to. Again, with Pride, we sell a feeling, we sell an emotion. That first place where people feel connection. So you do have to think outside of the box of how do you sell that feeling? Because you're not trying to sell that feeling, you're trying to bring the community together and use that as an opportunity for businesses, sponsors, organizations to be able to engage with us. We have a wrapped audience. Now it's your opportunity. How can you do what you do or show them what you do and make them want to go out and be a part of what you do? Or so many people in our events, they found their jobs, they found a connection to care, they found the place where they're going to go buy their first car. All those things are available at our events.
I mean, the other piece that comes to mind is like for just me personally, like I don't want to go to an event unless it's going to be, I'm going to get something from it, like either, like you said, like a feeling where it's going to be fun or it's, and so how do we create events where it's enticing and joyful? I think that's part of what Pride does so well too, is there's that sense of just like, it's like a light inside of us that gets turned on a little bit when we,
Absolutely.
I don't know if I'm explaining it well, but
Oh, no, totally. I mean, I get what you're saying, like, we do what we do for fun. It's fun, that what we plan is fun and it's exciting, but it's much more about how we feel as a community and a sense of belonging when you leave. And I think that for any cause, it's got to be fun. It's got to be exciting to entice people in. The feelings, the connections there are, the opportunity is there for that to happen, right? And that feeling and that everything starts to kind of generate. And those donations and that fundraising kind of takes over at that point, and people feel, it's sad to say this, but it's like when you're sitting at home and you're watching, dying dogs, you want to donate money then. It doesn't necessarily always have to be sad or draining. It can be a very exciting and enticing moment to make people feel empowered to be able to help and assist others.
That's a great word to use, empowered. Thank you.
And you can't underestimate the power of individuals who want to tell their story and the impact of that story, what that can have on individuals who are your donors. That testimony from people who have been impacted or individuals that have been impacted by your cause is paramount and really engaging with folks who want to give back, because a lot of times it's not just because they've got the ability, it's because they feel something, they want to be a part of changing someone's life.
And also too, I think for, something that we do here, especially within the pageant, that, there's strength in numbers. When one individual is out there raising money for the scholarship, they may think that, $2,000 may not necessarily be a huge impact when you think about educational costs, but when there's a crew of individuals, there's a community of individuals that have band together, the numbers that can be raised, the impact is going to be greater, it's going to be larger. So, for me, it's like, think about every dollar too, no dollar is too small of an amount to take in, and think about multiplying those dollars by all the individuals that are donating those dollars and impact, increasing the impact based off of that. If that makes any sense at all.
For sure.
We'd love to open this up for conversation with everybody else. I mean, there are people in here in all different kinds of organizations who probably all have some experience with events. I'd love to hear your thoughts, or if you have any questions, or I mean, there's so much that we can learn together through this. So please, don't try not to feel shy if you can, or if you want to put something in the chat, if you have a thought or a question, we can share it that way as well.
Don't mind me, I'm squinting because I'm blind, and our monitor is really far away.
I can read them if they show up.
All right, I do have another question for the two of you. So from your titles, at least, Landon, you're more in the fundraising role, and Eva, you're more in the programs role. How do you two work together? Is there a lot of crossover? Obviously, with the small organization, there's people wear a lot of hats, but is there ever sort of push or pull as to we need to lean more one way or the other?
I don't know about maybe, but I think that we can't do the programs and we can't provide the funds that we provide without the fundraising aspect of it. It goes hand in hand to be able to do it, and it's pretty much our culture, and anything that we do, there's always some kind of fundraising aspect to it. Yes, he deals with the sponsors and the donors and things like that, but we can't give $145,000 like we're going to give on Sunday if we don't have that. We can't give $53,000 in scholarships if we don't have that. So there's a lot of overlapping, to be able to have an individual on staff that understands the community and is involved in the community as much as Landon is, and sees the impact and the importance of our programs. only helps us benefit or better the programs and increase the impact that we're able to give.
I would say that we have a unique situation here in the staff because even I were, like I said, Mr. and Miss Phoenix Pride together. We were on the board together. She left the board after what, you were on the board for what, 6 months?
Yeah, 6 or 8 months.
6 or 8 months and came on staff, but I was on the board for 4 years. And so there's a working relationship of kind of, what do you need to in order to make this happen? How can I support you? We kind of divide up with our event sponsors versus exhibitors. So there's a lot of times where the conversation happens between us, okay, this person is probably going to be more of an exhibitor because based on their budget and what they can afford and what they're looking to get out of being a part of our events. So Eva handles them, or she may be in a situation, this person is asking for a lot. They're willing to spend money for what they're asking for. I probably should punt them over to you to be able to have that conversation more and having an understanding of the programs and what it takes to get those programs off the ground is what really helps that conversation between us.
And we are such a small office that many times I can hear him in his conversations. And
Yeah.
you know, I've been on staff for 4 years. In my time here, we've had 3 different development individuals, management directors or whatnot. And I think that it really helps to understand the programs and the impact of the programs because he's having these conversations with the sponsors, you know, and that's when, again, it comes back to that feeling and people, oh, it's more than just a Pride Festival, you know, I can help, we can have a scholarship in our name, or I can help a nonprofit organization do this, or what about the pageant or the artist call, you know, such an interesting topic to be able to celebrate local artists and allow them to showcase their art and sell their art to the community is such an amazing feeling, right? And then it makes you feel as philanthropists, that's kind of part of that is that feeling that we did something, we feel better about our communities and the people that we're trying to strengthen in the lives. So being able to have him be able to have those conversations with those sponsors makes a huge direct impact on my programs, you know, and if we wouldn't have that, we would continue to make sure that money is raised. But it's just nice to be able to have someone who sells the feeling and understands the feeling so that the sponsors know what they're buying into. And they don't see it just as the Pride Festival or the Pride Parade, and they see us more, they see us more as people and as individuals of the community and how they can benefit those individuals and strengthen their lives.
Well, I think that's awesome. And I know it seems like it would just naturally be easier in a small office versus a large office, but there's a lot to be said for the relationship that you both obviously have together and the chemistry that you have together, and maybe an example for the rest of us to make sure that we're approaching our offices in the same way. So that's great. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
You said something, I've been thinking about joining the local LGBTQ Chamber of Commerce, and they actually have a really cool event next week with the 2. I just wanted to share it, and I'm going to share the link just because I thought some people might be interested. Did you hear about this event that's happening next week?
Yeah, I get all the updates because the person that was in my role previously, he was on the board for the chamber, so I get all this. I get all their emails.
Oh, really interesting. It's the first gay married couple. They were in the military, and the minute that Don't Ask, Don't Tell went away, they were the first couple that were able to get married in the military, and they're going to be speaking. And I was like, oh my God, that sounds amazing.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so I'll just share it in case anybody's interested. So, oh my gosh. So Scott, do you want to also mention, I don't know if everybody knows, we were going to actually have somebody here from Tucson from SAFE speaking as well. And unfortunately they had a family issue and they weren't able to make it, but SAFE is actually sponsoring and also has a really cool community event that they do every year. So, sorry, Scott, I basically
said
you say
no,
something.
that's good. And we'll have some representatives from SAFE next month or whenever they're able to join so they can talk about it more eloquently than perhaps Ori and I can. But SAFE's always been a really big supporter of AFP and obviously of all the work that Phoenix Pride is doing and everything that's happening down here in the Tucson area. So yeah, thank you, Ori, for bringing that up, and I'm sure we'll be back to speak directly about it, but we appreciate them.
Also, I just want to say how brilliant Phoenix Pride is for doing the parade in October. You are gifted human beings. And because I went for I do remember my first Pride, and it was just a few years ago. We went with our free mom hugs. I don't know if you know, that was like a thing for a while. It was amazing. And it was so flippin' hot. So kudos to you for saying, we're in Phoenix, we're not doing it this month.
So also too, you brought up SAFE and it just kind of jogged my program side. So I'm gonna plug this in as well. SAFE is they're receiving a grant from us. And I also wanted to let you guys know with any organizations that you guys may possibly work with, nonprofit organizations that are servicing, even if they're not necessarily LGBTQ plus specifically identified, maybe they're allied organizations and they still focus on, you know, LGBTQ plus needs. We have 5 different areas. We could definitely help with $10,000 grants. They did just close and they're going to open up in February of next year. So if you know of any organizations that are out there that are needing some funding and they're allies and they're supporting our community, please send them our way. We'd love to be able to help if we can.
That's amazing. Thank you. And if you send us some information, we'll share it in our next newsletter along with, we've recorded this, we're going to put this up on YouTube, so we'll have all of that available for people so we can help spread the word further than just, you know, within the people who are here.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Of course.
What's the best way for us to get involved in the festival in October?
It depends at what level that you would like to get involved. So
It's a good fundraiser answer.
So if you are a business or organization that would like a presence at our events, all of that information is always going to be available on our website at phoenixpride.org, depending on the specific event. So for instance, in October, Pride Festival events, it's festival and events, Pride exhibitor information on phoenixpride.org. If you're looking for more of a curated experience with sponsorship and information on sponsorships, and one thing I do offer as well as trade deals with nonprofit organizations where maybe there's an event that you do, we can support you with that event and you support us with our event as trade sponsorships. That's going to be my email at sponsors@phoenixpride.org. Sponsors with an S.
That's a really neat idea. I love that you do that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's always the parade too, marching, you know.
Yeah, if you'd like, and parade is going to be on the website. So if you'd like to be a part of the parade, we've got some new parade managers, and last year's parade in November went so smooth. So I'm super excited.
And the parade's kind of neat because it's a little bit of community sponsors, nationwide, individuals that have been in the community forever that, you know, want to march. So it's a nice collection of everyone, you know, so it's nice.
Fantastic. Well, Eva and Landon, thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. Really, really great, and lots of stuff for us to think about. And like I said, for us to move our own organizations towards. So you all are doing some wonderful things that are great examples for us. Real quick, I just wanted to plug our upcoming meetings for our members. In July, we have a meeting that's titled Using Asset-Based Language to Reclaim BIPOC Narratives. To be talking a lot about grant writing and how we're doing that to support our communities rather than sort of marginalize them. That one is going to be in person at the CFSA campus, and it is going to be back in our old Friday morning slot from 7:30 to 9. So be sure to send out lots of information on that to make sure everybody gets the change. But yeah, so in person in July 8th is that meeting. And then we've got some stuff coming up in August, September, and October as well that we'll get the word out on, but we'll be doing a mix of in person and online for that. So thank you again, Landon and Eva, and thank you to Phoenix Pride for all you're doing for the community and to support certainly our little group down here. Thanks everyone for attending. We're looking forward to seeing you in person next Tuesday, happy hour out at the MSA complex, and have a wonderful weekend and stay safe out there.
Thank you. Thank you
Thanks,
so much,
guys.
Landon. This was wonderful. Appreciate you so much.
Have a good one.
Thank you.